Good Friday afternoon or evening, wherever you might be. Victor,
Hey,
you're here.
I'm here.
Can you
On
turn
time
your,
this time.
Thank you. Turn your lights on because I lost. You were dark, and now you're light.
Now I'm late.
Oh, that's interesting.
Too late.
Too light. I want to start with Vincent's comment here, real quick. Just got barred from the pub for ringing the bell as instructed. You are quite welcome, Vincent. Tamon, good to see you.
Unacceptable.
Hi, by the way, my name is Darren. This over here is Victor, and we're the host of a podcast called DevOps Paradox. And on Fridays, we do this show when we're here, except for next Friday.
I need to check the train schedule. I think I will
Train
be
schedule.
in a train.
Yeah. If you're
I'll
on a
get
train,
back to you and then
we'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out. So we may not be here next week. Because I was just thinking, it's like, oh, wait, we never looked at that far ahead. Of course, you never look what's happening in the next hour, much less a week ahead.
I know I'm not
Right.
traveling on Monday.
You know that much. Okay, that's good.
Next day, exactly.
Okay. And as we get into the show today, there's not much news. I don't understand what's going on. Companies, please. There has to be something happening in your purview that you would want to talk about. It just seems to be silence.
If this is a public message to the companies, if you can coordinate between yourselves so that you can evenly distribute the announcements throughout the year instead of everybody going and doing something in the same month, that would be highly appreciated.
Just a public service announcement. It makes our job much easier. And of course, companies need to cater to exactly what we need, right? That's the purpose.
Who else are they going to cater, man?
I don't know. Maybe the people paying them money?
Nah. I mean, that would mean that you would be catering to VCs. Right?
And that's down by
I'm guessing
60%.
that's not what you wanted to say, right? You probably meant customers.
Yeah, but VCs is correct. But the VC money is down almost 60% this year.
No more free lunch.
Well, there was never a free lunch to begin with. That was just an illusion.
Credit for the lunch.
Exactly. For the amount of stuff that we do have today, let's go ahead and get into it. And I use the word stuff. I would have gotten in trouble 40 years ago by using that word. For the amount of content we have today, short amount. This week's podcast was with Kaptn from Macrometa, and it was talking about Multicloud, Polycloud. Go take a look at Macrometa. If you're trying to build something that's truly global scale, and you don't want to build it yourself, go look at Macrometa. I'll put it that way. Just because, now, whether you, trust me, you need to understand what you're building first.
I must say that I'm still fuzzy about what is Multicloud, what is Polycloud, what is Hypercloud. No, I know what is Hypercloud. No, I don't know that one either. Hypercloud and probably like 17 other phrases that all dance around more than one cloud.
So here's how I'm going to specify multi-cloud and polycloud. Maybe you can follow this. Multi-cloud is the manual way of me taking an app and running it on clouds all by myself. Right?
Okay.
I got GCP, AWS. I'm going to spin up something. Let's keep it simple. I've got a container on AWS. I'm going to spin up ECS. In GCP, I'm going to use Google Cloud Run. Right? But that's multi-cloud, right? And then I'm finally coming up with same application, just bringing it up, and I've got a global load balancer being provided by some other third party that's getting me over those two. That's multi-cloud. That's wiring it up yourself, taking the Legos and putting something together yourself. Polycloud, I'm going to stick with the Lego metaphor, is here's the box, here's the instructions, but you really don't even need them. That's like IKEA level instructions, right? It's just a couple of pictures because that's all you really need. And then the Polycloud takes care of positioning things globally where it needs to be.
Okay, so Polycloud is kind of orchestrating multi-clouds.
It's the abstraction of that level.
Okay.
That's how I define it. Now, whether they're using the public clouds, I think Macrometa, they have their own. They're in their own data centers. And if I remember correctly, Akamai was one of their supporters. What's the right word for that? Not funders, but something like that. Akamai was in the mix there. So they've got data centers everywhere across the world. So they're handling that orchestration globally. At some point, I believe Mr. Musk will make it to where we're dealing with it galaxy-wide. So we have the word global, and then it turns into globally, right? How do you say galaxy, and then do you say galaxy-wide?
No, let's start with planets, then solar systems, and then maybe galaxies.
Right.
Yeah,
my stepping is wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
Sebastian, good to see you. Karen. But anyway, this is I thought it was a very interesting conversation that we had with Chathan. So here, I remember him telling me it's like Nathan, but Chathan. That's how it's burned in my head. So, Chathan, thanks for being on the show this week. Podcast comes out on Wednesday, 6 a.m. Eastern, noon CET, until the crazy time zones change again in October and November. Then we go through that whole cycle one more time. By the way, for anybody that's in the UK, have a nice Monday off while your king is getting a new hat. That's
cool. We're having Monday off as well, and Tuesday as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't know which holiday it is, what's going on, but...
Well, the coronation is at some point, so it's just days of... Maybe it's a multi-day...
I'm completely out of the loop. Is somebody getting coronated in
King
UK?
Charles.
It
hasn't happened yet. So the coronation is happening. It just hasn't... He's already king. Now the party begins.
Okay, because from what I understood, they need to hurry up whilst he's still alive, right? Otherwise,
I don't know.
You might miss it. Skip over.
Possibly. I mean, he is older.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's get into a few news items today. You use Homebrew, right?
Yeah, I do. Is there anything else to use in Mac?
There is now.
Okay.
That's what this is. So it's actually been out there. T was a CLI, and now they have a GUI for it. And the person behind T is the guy that started Homebrew.
Is it Mac only, right?
No, it's not. And that's the key. Because remember...
Are you telling me that there is going to be a package manager that allows me to install with the same command no matter the operating system? Is that what you're saying?
That's what I'm saying.
I want that. Wait, okay. For once, I'm going to actually take a note of what you're saying. What's the name? T.
And this week they introduced the GUI for it. But the CLI had come out a few months ago. Okay, here. I'm going to go back here. Planetary, galactic. Yeah, I need to come up with the right sequence of events. Vincent. As an Englishman in Berlin, only found out on Friday. It has seemed to have been a quiet thing. I'd heard about it, but... does Victor know he's living in a kingdom? Spain is a kingdom, right?
Yeah, kind of depends. If you ask locals, they don't live in Spain.
Oh, they don't?
No, they live in Catalonia,
yeah.
Which is not yet officially not part of Spain.
That's true. So Vincent's been using T, used the CLI for it. So anyway, the GUI came out this week. I haven't tried it yet.
Okay.
I just haven't tried it yet because I've finally gotten to the point with Brew to where I create a Brew file that has the full list of everything. So if I ever needed to relay it down or nuke and pave, I have a Brew file and I can just say whatever the command is. It's not brew apply, but something like that. And it does everything for me. But now I got to look at T just because. Oh, hey, Bill. Good to see you. Thanks for being here today. So anyway, this is T. I actually meant to move this towards the back for tools, but I forgot. FinOps. I thought this was interesting. We've talked about FinOps a lot. But now the FinOps Foundation is working with Google and Microsoft. Notice there's one big name missing there.
Alibaba.
Yeah, it's Alibaba. To where there's going to be a specification called Focus. Of course, it's got to have an acronym. FinOps Open Cost and Usage Specification. So in theory, the bills are going to look the same. Going back to our multi-cloud, polycloud conversation just a moment ago. I mean, I care about the technology, but there's also the accountant. I don't want to have to parse. Think about how bad the bills look to begin with.
Yeah.
Now, if I can get it coming in right into SAP or whatever my billing system is, and it's all magically parsed for me.
Think about it. Those companies around FinOps that are trying to save money typically on your cloud cost and stuff like that, there is such a tremendous mercy of cloud providers, right? Because it's not something that end users use. So AWS, Azure, Google, tomorrow could close those APIs and completely put out of the business those unicorns. I would be worried if that would be my business.
Yeah. But this is now in theory going to be by making billing data easier to understand and more consistently reportable between multiple vendors. If AWS hops on this, then we're talking. Google and Microsoft are founding members and will be on the steering committee.
I honestly don't see how that is possible. There are so many different APIs and services that are offered in those providers that I haven't seen the proposal, so maybe I'm talking something that doesn't make sense. But you're comparing apples with oranges, essentially, if you compare AWS and Azure and Google, right? And I don't see how something can unify it. To me, that sounds similar like previous attempts. Hey, let's create the infrastructure as code tool that will actually use the same spec across multiple vendors, and it failed big time. Every time.
So I guess we'll see.
But
there'll be something to watch.
Yeah.
Jivan, good to see you. Vincent has, as a fintech company, layoff from Unicorn. Development environment using EC2 was about 3 million euros a month per customer.
Oh my. Development environment EC2, okay. And that's probably not counting then the rest of the cost, ingress, egress, storage, whatever. Oh my.
Wow. That's I just sort of took all the wind out of the sails. But anyway, that's Google Cloud, Microsoft Cloud. They get into all this stuff here. So anyway, it'll be interesting to watch and see how this plays out. Well, and this is also open cost, which came out of KubeCost, right? So all of this, I think, much like we've been watching AI, we're in the big hype cycle. The FinOps stuff, because it's accounting, people don't care about until they have to pay those $3 million per month bills, right? Then they care. I think this is going to be interesting to watch. Okay, a couple of tools. Netchecks. Now, I don't know why this exists. This is, oh, help me, I'm drawing a blank. OPA, and then what's the friendly one for Kubernetes?
Caverno?
Caverno, thank you. And it was K. Of course it's K. This is specific for network things.
Okay.
It is purpose-built to do network things. So in this case, there's one here for every hour, check and make sure that the pod that's monitoring this can connect to the Kubernetes API.
Yeah.
Right, just sanity check. Just like what you'd normally do with curl. You know, you'd have something just wake up and do things. There's also a DNS assertion to where you're making sure that basically every 3 minutes, if I'm doing cron right in my head, that the DNS entry is actually resolving to 11111 in this case.
It's very cool. Very cool.
So they have HTTP controls, DNS controls, and then you can also write custom validations. Now, what I like about this is even I can understand this, right? Because I'm not writing Kyverno, I'm not writing OPA stuff here. This is just pretty straightforward once I know the correct YAML to write.
That's the thing with declarative syntax. The problem is really understanding the meaning of the fields. But if that's the area of your expertise, then yeah, you know what is a server, you know what is a host, you can understand what's going on, right?
Yep. And even the custom syntax was pretty straightforward. Like in this case, this is looking for status and body validation. Just think about normal. I'm making sure the site's up, right? That's what I want to do. Am I getting a 200 and do I see this content? And they even tell you, now it looks weird, but it's not that strange once you look at it.
No, it's straightforward.
Yeah, it's like this. I'm monitoring GitHub. And do I get this? I do? Great. I know GitHub's up and not going sideways like it has seemed to have been going a lot this year.
Yep. As if, but this is a terrible example, right? Because it's as if there is something you can do if it goes down. What do you get? A notification so that you get depressed and nothing else, right?
Well, you get a notification. Now you can not say we're waiting on GitHub. Now you have to come up with whatever your secondary is. Oh, it's or now you can say GitHub's actually down. We can't. So it's your what's the correct phrasing?
Fallback.
Yes, it's your this is your why I can't work right now reasoning, right? It's like, oh, my CI server is busy. I'm waiting for it to build. Okay, that's not the thing. Oh, GitHub is down. That's the next layer. And then it's like, next thing would be DNS isn't resolving. You could keep going. So this is a good question. With all the validation checks, do they have notifications or a dashboard? So they have alerting. And then you have to have these things in. So Kyverno is part of it there for policy reporter. I guess you would just ship it out to wherever, but the reporting is through Prometheus, I guess, and then it's going into Grafana. So do they have something built in? It doesn't appear so.
I mean, if you can pull it into Grafana, then you can put alerts directly in Grafana.
There. I think that's the right thing to do, right? There's no reason to build your own alerting system.
Oh, yeah.
Because you want this data to go out anyway. I was just trying to see if there was anything else, but I don't see anything. Oh, they actually do have Slack. They do have Slack notifications here. So there is a Slack setup.
Yeah.
Which is fine.
Nice.
But
now, how do you, if you detect through this that your network is down, how do you send a Slack notification from that same system?
Well, that's the problem at that point, right? You're putting two things together that really matter at that point. Okay. Anyway, it's called Netchecks. Purpose-built to do this thing, which is actually better than Kyverno and OPA combined, in my opinion. Because sometimes I just want I want to do this thing. I don't want the Swiss Army knife, right?
Yeah, this is very specialized. This is not really the type of policies that, at least right now, Kyverno gives you.
Right. But you could write it in Kyverno, right? Or no?
Netchecks, I don't know, but it's YAML. It's almost the same. So
yeah. Well, I'm just saying I could write these same type rules in Kyverno. Or no?
I don't think that Kyverno would give you that those types of policies. No.
Okay, but I could do it with OPA. I could go
with OPA is like Army Swiss knife. You can do anything.
Right. Anyway, that's Netchecks. Spot. I was actually thinking about doing some other things with this. Spot. It's actually called Simplotask is the full name. I don't understand. It's basically a current version of, it's like a bad mashup, not a bad mashup. It's a mashup of Make and Ansible and like there's just a lot of things.
It looks like that Ansible, like
without having separate files.
Pipeline, like right, kind of like
more for tasks.
Yeah, tasks exactly. Do this, then do that, and then do this something else. Yeah. It reminds me of GitHub Actions in a way.
That's reasonable. Okay. So maybe I just was a little too negative on it. It's interesting, but it wasn't enough for me to spend a lot more time on it than just looking at it. But, here's a simplified one. I have a handful of targets, then I go and do the things.
To me, the interesting use case for tools like this, assuming that I understood what it does because I was exposed to it in 2.5 seconds, is that if you can create something like that you can run from your laptop, let's say, and then plug that same script into a pipeline, then you would get kind of same thing over the board, right? Because traditionally you cannot run pipelines locally.
Correct. But this is what I got with Task, which it's a Go-based runner to where I could do that. I mean, there's how many tools? There's lots of them. And it's
as many as you want.
Yeah, and in fact, they're even stealing the Ansible phrasing for playbook. So full and simplified. You can do YAML or TOML. That's actually nice, because sometimes I get tired of looking at YAML, and TOML I can deal with pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, maybe I slept on it just a little too much. Maybe I do need to go back and take a look at it.
Ansible without Ansible.
Yeah. Now do I go back and rewrite all my Ansible playbooks? No.
Not just yet.
No. In fact, it's interesting you bring that up. It is MIT licensed, which is good, and lots of good documentation, and it's still a 0.12. Not a ton of releases, if I remember correctly. I think it was 3 pages worth. But it's super active. Like yesterday, then 2 days ago, multiple times, then 3 days ago, multiple times. So they're hot and heavy on it right now.
Nice.
So if you were to start early, if you were to start using it now, be ready to run fast and break things. It's like running with scissors, right? And what Ari says here is looks like a Jenkins pipeline, so task. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's what I was thinking about, is doing a video using Spot with Jenkins, which is what I've done that with Task. I've done that with Make. I've done that. It's the same thing. You just use the tools that you need. So anyway, that's Spot. So this one today, Kaptn. Yet another
Kaptn.
Yeah, exactly. Yet another Electron-based Kubernetes management tool for Windows and Mac.
Kubernetes. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So let me go to the site, because the site's got actually more visual information. So unlock the full power of the Kubernetes command kubectl while easily initializing and monitoring Kubernetes clusters.
That's from terminal. Okay, so this is K9's.
No, it's not.
Competition.
That's the problem. User-friendly terminal interface, but it's actually a GUI.
Okay.
Pre-configured. Now, I haven't installed it yet. But, I mean, look at the visualization, right? It's an Electron app. Electron apps are not CLIs. Or not terminal apps.
True. It's just that the picture looked like a fancy terminal application. And I see more and more terminal applications that actually look similar to that, right? Maybe not to the second picture. But.
Yeah. So anyway, you can, and they've got a bunch of other stuff coming soon too. What I thought was interesting, and again, this is not a knock against them, I always look at licenses. It's the first thing I look at is, do I see a license file or license call out? Didn't see anything here, looked inside, didn't see anything. And I go to the bottom and it says, hey, it's distributed under MIT, but there's no license file.
There is no license?
Again, I'm going to cut them some slack. They're new.
Yeah, 1 week old.
Yeah, a mashup of K9S and Lens. That's what it feels like. Because I'm not seeing anything here that, other than this spinny ball thing as I scroll down, that it follows my thing. I don't really understand why we need that.
One more.
It's one exactly. One more. Kaptn and Kaptn. Yes. That's not to confuse
Oh yeah,
things.
this is with A. Okay.
This is A, not E. Okay, and
As if we were not confused enough.
exactly. Speaking of confusion, her video with KCP this week.
Yeah.
Why KCP?
It's I think it's very impressive. It's it's a way how to use very extremely lightweight Kubernetes API that cannot run anything except what's bundled in it to manage any number of Kubernetes clusters. So think of it as a portal into different clusters with multi-tenancy and observability and all that stuff without being able to run your applications. Now, to me, that's what KCP is. To me, what I like about KCP is not that much what it is, but more that it shows that we can have specialized Kubernetes clusters that are just like specialized operating systems that are very efficient in doing something instead of being mediocre at doing anything, right? When I say efficient, I mean from resource consumption, speed, performance, all that stuff.
And that sort of gets back to what we're talking about with Netchecks, right? Netchecks does this thing, right?
Exactly.
And there's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes you need that, and that gets you closer. Let's see if we can answer Sebastian's question. Does the control plane itself run as a container still?
No, it runs as a binary. At least right now. Now, there are attempts to run it within a Kubernetes cluster. No, I'm not sure whether that makes sense. But right now, it's a binary. You just run it.
Okay. That's actually everything I've got today.
That's okay.
Does anybody have any
It's
questions? We haven't had because we haven't had AMAs on Thursdays. Does anybody actually have any questions here live
there is
today? We
that
have a
comment from Bill, I think it was very early, about cloud being only for FinOps.
Let me pull it up. Oh, there it is. This one?
Yeah. Now, to me, that's interesting because I don't see cloud as paying someone else's compute center. To me, that's not the main benefit of cloud. To me, the main benefit of cloud is using somebody's services, right? I'm not that interested into using AWS because it has EC2 instances. I'm interested in using AWS because it has services like RDS, EKS, and so on and so forth. To me, that's the value. Whether it's worthwhile, whether it's better to use it or not use it, that would be a separate discussion. But I don't think it's compute anymore, cloud. Far from that. That's how it started only.
Let's see if we can help Jivadan solve this problem. We have a committed contract that's coming to its end and we're underspent. So they committed to this and they've only spent this much and they need to spend here in the middle.
That happens actually a lot because cloud providers tend to make a deal with companies and say, hey, I'm going to give you 40% discount if you commit to $1 million this year, right? And if you don't spend it, well, tough luck, right? That's why many of the providers are scrambling to offer their services as part of, let's say, AWS Marketplace or others, because nobody wants to pay somebody else. I mean, nobody. Many companies cannot afford to pay services from somebody else because they already committed to AWS or Google or Azure for certain quantity that is above what they plan to spend, right? So everybody's scrambling to enter into other people's marketplaces so that they can actually get paid from that budget.
So Ari says, run some machine learning training. That'll waste money really fast. But unless the commit was to specific services, and that might be the potential problem too, because it may not just...
Sometimes it's even like that.
Yeah. Can you resell it?
You can give it to me.
Yeah, one suggestion was to use...
the best way to... Huh?
This isn't a bad one. So it sounds like this was a wider... It sounds like this was a general commit. not a specific commit. So have their professional services actually implement it for you and you don't have to do the work. That's not a bad idea.
Yeah. Well, you need to spend it.
Yeah. Is there an application that allows Kubernetes API exploration, including CRDs, without kubectl explain object? Kube Explorer. Have you seen anything?
No, I mean, not as a bulk, right? But like Lens can give you the equivalent of kubectl explain. Many other dashboards will give you that. If you want to go resource by resource, there are quite a few. K9S, for example, as well. Now, if you want to fetch all of them, then you would need some kind of a script, Get all CRDs, and then for each.
Vladislav, thanks. You have a good weekend too.
Hey, man.
Going back to Gvaden's thing here real quick. General commit for 3 years, but then you kills the whole FinOps, yeah.
Start crypto mining company, Gvaden.
I was going to say that. You could burn it really fast, but there's nothing to really crypto mine at this point. kubectl Explorer plugin for each resource. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know of any. It would have to be a 5 lines shell script.
Yeah. Anything else? Any other questions? I know we're about 5 seconds ahead, so. Well, this is interesting. A dynamic kubectl explain. Give me the docs and HTML from your own cluster with CRDs installed. That's actually pretty cool. Almost like, what's it called? Like OpenAPI. To where you get that kind of stuff, right? To where.
Actually, that's one of my big complaints from, generally speaking, majority of web UIs or desktop applications that do something with Kubernetes. Many of them are really not exploring enough the fact that Kubernetes has an API, right? You could actually do that. You could list all the CRDs and RDs and make it very, very dynamic instead of hard coding all over the place. I get surprised over and over again how many times I see those applications that, hey, you want to create the deployment, here's a form, right? Instead of just asking Kubernetes cluster, what's the schema?
That would be the logical thing, right? Because documentation is going to get out of date. How can I query the cluster correctly to give me back what I have now? What is mine?
That's the deficiency of a significant number of applications that visualize Kubernetes one way or another. They completely forget it's dynamic, and all the information is there. To make it clear, all the information you need is accessible through the API. So if you're working on one of those applications, please make it dynamic.
That would make too much sense, right? I guess so.
Yeah, I mean, all the time I get into, like, yesterday I was playing with observability tool, which I'm not going to name, and I see, okay, so there is a list of things you can explore, kind of what's happening with my deployments, what's happening with replica sets, what's happening with pods, right? And I cannot see custom resources. And it would be easier. They would spend less time if they made it dynamic from their UI. But no, I don't want to do that.
It's their choice. Vince has a question. Have you looked into Kyverno and Salsa 3? Interesting to secure workloads.
I know I haven't tried Kyverno in that direction. I know that they've been working on Salsa some capacity, but I'm not up to date on that part of Kyverno. I'm not sure whether it's already released or not. Not sure.
We go back to here. Back to our previous thing. This is what your YAML should look like with sane defaults. A sane default would be that long.
Now, sane defaults you can not get from Kube API, right? But that's where very, very simplistic, simplest possible machine learning AI something could really play nice, because same defaults, unless you're starting cluster today, is probably what you already have in your cluster, right?
Wouldn't a sane default generation need to take us back to the source code to generate, look for bounding values or explicit values, right?
Yeah, so you have the type of the field, if I'm not mistaken, like it's string integer, you have the default value, but the default value is not necessarily same default, right? Like default value in deployment is 1. But that's not necessarily a same default.
Why do you say that?
I mean, same default in your organization for your use case could be, hey, 3 replicas is what we typically do. And I'm ignoring now autoscalers and stuff like that, right? But 3 is what we normally do. That's same default for us. And then go up or down from there, right?
Right. Yeah. In my organization, prod, the same default is 3. The dev environment's 1. Just because, especially if you got an autoscaler, I mean, there's no reason to have.
Now, I wouldn't invest much time to do something like that, because I think that actually, if we assume that same defaults are dependent on the organization or the company or team, then I think that in that case, companies should actually create their own resource definitions and say, this is the same default. Because same default are not only values. Same default is, we use SCADA for scaling, right? That's our same default. You can maybe use HPA, but it's SCADA, right? So I think the company should start defining themselves what is the same default for them.
Let me look at Vincent's put in a few things here. It can auto-generate cover no manifest.
Okay.
And then, that doubled up, sorry. Same thing. What's your view on AI observability assistance? If it works?
I haven't seen one that really works yet. I haven't seen all, so I don't know, but I haven't seen it personally. But to me, that's, if I would be working in Kubernetes space related to AI, that's what I would focus probably first. Some sort of AI. It doesn't have to be even very complicated, right? I just need to look what's normal and then report to what is abnormal based on history of what's happening with that namespace, cluster, application, what's or not.
And I saw this week too. New Relic Grok is coming out, which is going to be the helper to do that. So I'm still sitting on the sidelines right now with AI. It's just I'm playing with it. In fact, it did. And in fact, even on this machine that I have right now, I did set up Code Whisperer and Copilot inside VS Code.
Which one do you look?
But I haven't used it yet because I had to get it set up first, because that was the weird thing. But then when I was going through the Code Whisperer documentation, it's like, if you're using any other type of auto completion, you need to turn it off.
Makes sense. Because it's not that you say, I want to use Copilot now. It's just running the moment you install, assuming that you installed it in VS Code or JetBrains, right?
Yeah, VS Code.
That's similar like in Kubernetes using horizontal pod autoscaler and vertical pod autoscaler. Not a good idea. Not a good idea.
That's the way I feel about it, just in general, because that just sort of makes sense. But if let's see, we'll bring it up here. So here's Visual Studio Code. I've got Code Whisperer, so I had to create a builder ID, because since it's free. And then I've got GitHub up here, and I've got all of that squared away. So if I was to create a new file, what do you want me to create?
Command N.
Thank you. Let's save it as, what do you want me to save it as?
Your favorite, TypeScript.
Okay. That's fine. We'll do that. So we'll do that, and I'll call it hello.ts. Okay. Now what do I want to do? I want to...
I literally don't know to give you a suggestion for a single line in TS.
How about this? Well, it's giving me an example here. Create a new table with specified schema in DynamoDB. Why not? So I'll tab that out and hit enter. And there's that.
Yeah.
Oh, it even tabbed for me. Whoops.
Now you better work with AWS.
Well, I'm assuming it's coming through Code Whisperer right now because I'm not seeing the typical Copilot stuff. But set the region.
I don't know. How would you distinguish the two? It's a suggestion. It could be coming from either.
Yeah. I mean, it's writing the comments for me.
Yeah.
I mean, so the top one, which they gave me as an example, and then I'm just going in through and filling everything. I mean, I'm just tabbing to the end of the line and hitting enter. That's all I'm doing.
Line 6, my limited experience in TypeScript says that that's wrong, but okay. You need to change that.
Well,
there we go.
Yeah, I'll change that. So we'll say US East 1. Well, it even fills that out for me. Oops. I mean, it's just...
Yeah.
Okay, anyway. But that's, I'm assuming, using Code Whisperer.
I don't know. I honestly wouldn't know how to tell you
Which one's using which?
one is it.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know whether you have Copilot. The fact that you have... are you sure you have Copilot? Because the fact that you have GitHub does not mean that you have Copilot.
I have, let's see, I've got Copilot.
there we go.
Reload required. Okay, there we go.
That's... Okay.
Now the question is it going to complain? I don't know.
What would be cool if one would be deleting the other in spite?
Exactly. And that's been my... Like, no, you can't be here. I have to win. Oh, come on.
No. You cannot... What would be amazing if now Copilot would suggest you cannot use AWS, you should use Azure.
Right.
And rewrite everything to Azure.
Yeah. So, okay, so this is like failing. So I'm going to delete that. So let's say create a hello world, hello world function.
Function. Okay.
Web app, yeah, web application. Let's do that.
That's not good.
I have no idea what that is. See, it's this line by line thing. That's not what I want. I want
The normal. So I have no experience with Whisper, but Copilot would give you a whole deal if you said that,
yeah.
or maybe a function. Not
Well,
a
here.
whole
So let me disable Code Whisperer here for a second. So I can.
and reload.
Yeah, but the problem is I'm not sure how to disable Code Whisperer because it doesn't give you. I can hide the extension. I don't know. I need to play with this some, obviously. I wonder why I can't. Thought there was a way to disable, because it's all baked in the AWS toolkit. That's the thing, it's not a separate, thankfully it's not a separate extension. But the downside is it's not a separate extension. Because.
Oh, that's...
Here, let me just disable the toolkit and reload required. And now in theory, I'm going to be using, yeah, because that's off. So now I can say, create a hello world function. Well, somebody's writing it. See, I would expect it to write it all out for me.
Yeah, it should. Maybe it doesn't like TypeScript.
Create a function that takes a string and returns it. Is it shift enter? No? I don't know. Oh, Okay, so it's now creating. It's basically creating string utils for me. Because it's writing. I'm not writing those comments. Oh, gosh. Maybe AI can at least be used to write non-line comments. Okay, let's see. Okay, two. This is really what y'all wanted to see today, I'm sure. Two lowercase. Let's see if it complains about the comment. Of course it doesn't complain about the comment.
I don't know. It will not. It does not do those things, as far as I know.
Yeah.
But you could write a comment there and say rewrite this function to uppercase now. No. In the rewrite the previous comment.
Oh, rewrite this comment?
Yeah. Rewrite this function to uppercase. I don't know, man.
So this is the problem, right? The function below to return in all caps. Okay.
Stupid guy.
I don't know. It's trying. Is there?
But I think that you don't get Copilot for free. You need to pay money first.
I have paid for it.
You did?
Yeah.
Okay.
For a year I did. I mean, I'm still active here. Well, let's try to answer this question. Let's try to.
Because you see that picture, it did what you said. It wrote all of it, not only.
Right. Yeah. Anyway, let's try to answer this question, just because this is a losing battle now.
API. It depends. What do you mean by cluster, right? If it's incoming calls to Kubernetes cluster, then that's what Kubernetes already does with, first of all, with its internal validation, second with whether it complies, and then we have vision controllers.
Right.
So if it's Kubernetes, then yes.
Okay. All right. I'm going to wrap it up. We're almost 10 till the hour. I need to go back and finish writing for tomorrow. So I will say, we'll go ahead and say this here. We did record our first video podcasts this week.
Mm-hmm.
And I get to,
editing going?
and I haven't started yet. That's tomorrow. We'll see. I'm not sure how it's going to go.
I dare you to edit it without watching it. Just edit audio and let's see what comes out.
That's what I will. So that's going to be my process. Is I'm going to edit the audio first, because I can do that. I can turn off the video. And I'll edit the audio first, and then I'll come back and. So it's going to double or triple my edit times, which is going to.
If you go back,
suck.
yes. If you just publish
the video, well, I have to at least get a template up for the video to lay in. Right, so I at least need to do that. If I do that, are you okay with that? Maybe that's all I'm going to... Because I was thinking about doing nice scene switching to where when you go off on your tirades, then it's just you full screen. So you do want that. Okay, well, great. That's what we'll do.
No. I'm saying just easy effort first, low effort first.
Yeah. We'll try. Actually, the very first one, we had the screen share in it. So I want to do
just
that one
edit
first.
the master file.
Maybe I switch it around and
ones.
I do not the video. I don't do the video. Well, that'll be simple. Doesn't matter. You don't need to hear about that. That'll come in June. So if you listen to us, audio will still be the same. But now we're going to have us talking. We're just going to see how it goes. It's hard to do a video podcast a lot of times. Not because of us, but because of other things. Mm-hmm. All right. Let's call it a weekend. Let's just call it a day. Actually, a day, and then I can start thinking about the weekend. All right. Thanks, everybody, for being here. We may or may not be here next week. We'll figure that out. So be watching on Thursday. Subscribe to the channel. You'll get a notification once I do schedule it, if we do schedule it for next Thursday. If not, we'll be off a week, and then we'll be back next week. I think that works. Maybe by that time I will have figured out actually how to use Copilot or Code Whisperer at that point. Maybe not. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great weekend.